I'm Davy, and I'm awesome, and welcome to Davy's Awesome Stories, where I tell funny stories from my past or go on a rant in an effort to make you laugh. This week, it's a rant. In the past, I've talked about stupid things that customers or just random people do and say, but you know what? It's not just people that are stupid. There are things out there that make no sense why this was even made or done that way. And oddly enough, in this rant, all of them have to do with food. So this week, I'm going to talk about things that just really boggle my mind with how dumb they are. The first one has to do with sugar. We all know sugar and flour come in those little pouches. Can we get a better container for sugar and flour rather than two flimsy pieces of paper that tear a little every time you look at them? I mean, for God's sakes, it took like 100 years for them to fix ketchup bottles by putting the lid at the bottom, but nobody's ever thought against this? Was there really some idiot going like, hey, I got an idea. Let's put the sugar in a flimsy package so that every time you put it in your basket, it tears a little, and by the time you get to the checkout register, you've lost half the bag of sugar all over the store. And whoever this was, I hate you. And when I've talked about this to people, they try to say stupid things like, it's to keep the sugar nice and fresh. What the heck does fresh sugar taste like? I have no clue. To me, that's as worthless as like the fresh cracked pepper. You know, I cannot tell the difference between you waving that wand around my food and putting the pepper on there versus grabbing out of that little tiny metal tin and just putting a bit on. And not once, ever once have I been sipping my coffee and going like, honey, did you use the fresh sugar? As a matter of fact, in my house, when we get home, my wife puts the sugar in a glass jar, and it tastes the same. Tastes exactly like sugar. Like you could put it in a plastic case, or at least like if you just have to put it in a paper lining, first put it in like a plastic lining or something. Sell it in glass, I don't care. I just want to get all my sugar home. Another stupid thing I hate, mainly because I'm like, why did they ever invent this? And why did it work? Because for a long time now, a very successful product of Mars M&M has been mini M&Ms. Like seriously, why did we need that? Did we need that? Regular M&Ms are not very big. They're like that. I've never known or heard of anybody who's like choked on M&M, nor have I ever known anybody who was like, oh dude, I'm full, I ate a whole M&M. But when I was a kid, out of nowhere, they started selling this little tube of candy that had tiny M&Ms on them. M&Ms so tiny that beforehand you could only get them for cake decorating. And again, I've heard stupid people make stupid excuses for why they would make mini M&Ms. It's for babies so they don't choke. No, it's not. That is not what it's for. That was never even thought of. You know why? Because if they had thought of that, they would have advertised it that way. You would have seen commercials, or at least a poster, with a little baby with the mini M&Ms and a happy mother because her kid is safe. It didn't happen. Ever. If they did, they wouldn't have called it mini M&Ms. They would have called it baby M&Ms. But they don't. They just call it mini M&Ms. Not to mention, as a father of 3, I've been in the baby section many, many times, and I've never once been sitting there looking around at the baby food and then like, okay, mashed peas, mushed carrots, butternut squash, mini M&Ms, perfect. No! That was a stupid response, especially because I've never heard of even one baby choking on M&Ms. Never once. And here's the thing, by the time babies can start eating solid food, I've given all 3 of my babies an M&M here and there, and they've never choked on them. Never even had a slight problem. Because as much as they say it won't melt in your mouth, they're full of crap. It eventually will, if you leave it in there long enough. And then, even then, if you swallow it whole, it's a tiny thing. It's not even big enough for a baby to choke on. You want to really know why they made mini M&Ms? Because there was some guy who was like, well, it's quite simple, really. We can use a lot less of the products to make them, and then we can charge them for way more than the original one. Because people are dumb enough to buy it. Not because there was some moron going, I had 17 kids and only one of them is living. I really wish they would have come out with mini M&Ms before he was born. And if that's really the case, then that guy shouldn't have been allowed to have children after not learning that many times to not give him the M&Ms in the first place. Another that has annoyed me since the second I found out about its creation. The Uncrustables. That's right. At some point, somebody came up with the idea, hey, you know how it's hard to make a PB&J sandwich? No. And you know how it's even harder when you don't like the crust, so you gotta, peel that off yourself? Again, I'm gonna have to go with No. Well, what if we sold the sandwich for people, but with the crust already cut off? How would you get it to them before it goes bad? We'll freeze it. You're gonna freeze a whole peanut butter and jelly sandwich. No, see, we're gonna cut a hole in the middle of the sandwich, and we're gonna give them the part we cut out. So they're only gonna get half of the peanut butter and jelly sandwich that they could have just went and made themselves. It's not very hard. Yeah, but we can charge way more for the package than it would cost to make that many sandwiches. Oh, extra incentive for them to buy it. The fact that it's going to cost them way more than it would be to just get off their lazy butts and go make a freaking sandwich. Not to mention, if you're going to freeze them, by the time they got to them, they're going to be like ice. So how are they going to eat them? Well, you're going to have to let them thaw. Thaw a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And the stupid thing is this is a very successful product. This is something that has gotten big to the point that they're making all sorts of varieties of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for people to buy in the frozen food section. And again, you have to let it thaw. It's not like you can just have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich whenever you want. You're going to take out that little, what looks like a sample they would give me at Costco of a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and be like, man, I'm going to have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich in a couple of hours. You freaking morons! Get up and go make one. It's not difficult. What, is that the problem where some of you it's hard. You gotta grab all that bread and jars and knives and spread them on each other and put them together and then you gotta peel the crust off yourself like a 6-year-old and I'm sorry, but I've only got so many hours in the day. And the worst thing I hate about this is that from experience I can actually say they're really good. And finally, to me, one of the ones I hate the most and find the most disturbing. So much so that, unlike the sugar, I've bought the sugar. I've tried the mini M&Ms. And yes, I've eaten the Uncrustables. But I will never do this one. Years ago, I was working at a pharmacy, and there was a guy working there, and him and I had a mutual love of a TV show that aired sometimes on Discovery Channel called Food Paradise. And each episode was just different, where they would go around to many different places and check out restaurants and eateries and stuff based on what they were doing. For example, my favorite one was Burger Paradise. They had Breakfast Paradise, Deep Fried Paradise, Pizza Paradise. The one we were talking about at this particular time was Steak Paradise. And I do loves me a good steak. Probably my second favorite food, right below burgers. And I mean a good steak. I'm not going to lie to you people, I'm one of those steak snobs. I can't stand to be around people who eat steak wrong. I don't know why. I just can't handle it. I'm one of those people, I remember one time eating roast beef with somebody, and he put ketchup on his roast beef, which I'm not going to do, but I didn't care. Or eating pizza around people, and you get those people who don't just dip their crust or something in ranch like I do. Well, I used to do, now I dip it in blue cheese. But they'll basically drown their pizza slice in ranch. Again, I'm not going to do it, but I don't care. But for some reason, steak, it irritates me when you people eat it wrong. What's wrong with you? When I'm at a steakhouse or something, I try to get them to seat me somewhere away from people. Because if I hear somebody order their steak ooh, can I get my steak well done? Why? Why? For a lot cheaper. Go to Target or Walmart or something. They got cheap shoes there. And eat one of those instead, because it's basically what you like is shoe leather. And can I get some extra steak sauce? I like a lot of steak sauce. Oh, why are you planning to have a bad steak? Because seriously, the only time I've ever used steak sauce on a steak is if I was at somebody's house, they were making steaks and they overcooked mine a little. I just wanted to be polite and make it palatable and get out of there, but you have a really good steak. A good steak, it's thick, juicy, and tender. You hit it and you can feel the tenderness and whatnot in the steak. Oh man, you don't need it. It's got the nice marbling and the fat. And then that one. And could you trim the extra fat off for me, please? At that point, I swear, I'm going to wait for you to leave. I'm going to follow you home, and as soon as you turn off the lights and go to bed, I am going to take a dump in your driveway. But back to the stupid thing. So him and I were talking about this steak paradise place, and it was showing all the different steak places, and he actually was excited because he said, yeah, one of those steak places in there, I've actually been there. Oh really, which one? Peter Luger's? The Big Texan? And he informs me that it wasn't actually one specifically on the show, but one that was basically modeled just like one of the ones on the show. And I was still curious, because I do get very curious about great places to eat. I love to try new restaurants. I really do. I don't understand people who don't. Like, if you try a restaurant and you don't like it, then just don't go back. But I love trying new things. Love it. And I love watching things about food. Honestly, I watch food videos the way my brother watches adult videos. One time my wife came in hearing me, like, yeah, do that. I'll spread that on there. Spread it. What are you watching? That a food video? Yeah. Watching a really great way to make a lobster mac and cheese. Okay. But, why are your pants around your ankles? Don't judge me! But back to this guy, this place he had went to that he modeled himself after was actually a place on there that made it to where Steak Paradise couldn't even be close to the top of my favorite of that docu-series, because this place was freaking stupid. And he told me, you remember that place where you go in and you make your own steak? Yeah, I remember. Because it made me angry. Yeah, well, I've been to one of those. Why? So now, for those of you who didn't see it, let me fill you in. This was a steakhouse. Steakhouse. With Steakhouse Prices. Basically, you were going to go here and spend as much as you would spend at a place like Texas Roadhouse, or Outback Steakhouse, or Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, to make your own steak. Basically, this place, you went in, you picked out what steak you want, like the cut of meat. They provided you with seasonings, and I will say this much, at least they cook your sides for you, like your baked potato and your vegetable. But you then take your steak, you wait in line for a spot in this big grill, and you put the steak down and cook it however you want with all the seasonings you want. Why would I go there, do that, and pay Steakhouse Prices for a freaking steak I made myself? I could do that at home. And this guy I was talking to was really trying to sell it. Well, you get to pick out any cut of steak you want. Yeah, you know, you can also do that at a place called a grocery store. Yeah, but they have all the seasonings you could want. I have that at home, in my cupboard, especially because we're talking about a steak here. And I will admit, the cuts of steak looked good. But then again, where I buy cuts of steak, they look good. That really doesn't matter to me. But as far as that, that's another thing that irritates me about some people when they eat their steaks. All the freaking seasonings they put on it. People, if you got a really good steak, less is more. Like, I still want to taste the steak, so when it comes down to it, I only use 3 seasonings. I use a pinch of salt. Pinch. Not a bag like I've seen in some videos. I put a pinch of pepper and a pinch of garlic powder. That's it. Because the seasoning is just supposed to add flavor. It's not supposed to take over the dang steak. But again, you could do this at home. And you can cook it to your exact liking. Again, I can do that at home. Or if I actually go out and pay Steakhouse Prices like I would at Ruth's Steakhouse, then they can cook it to my liking, considering I'm paying them. Because yeah, my liking is medium rare. It's not very hard. You don't have to cook it that long. I just want it warm and bloody. My wife's is even easier. My wife likes her steak rare. Like really rare. Like more rare than winning an argument with your wife. Like no joke, when we go to steakhouses, this is how my wife orders her steak. This is how I want it. The very moment that my steak is legal to serve, put it on my plate. And I'm sitting here basically letting this guy know that you are a moron and you got had. Because you went and paid over $100 so that you and your wife could make your own steaks. Because I hate to break it to you, even if you buy a really good cut, like if you do what I love to do but can only do on a very rare occasion, which is get a nice thick filet mignon with plenty of marbling. Still, it's a lot less than that. And I'm sorry, but I'm not going to go somewhere and pay that much so that I can do the work. That would honestly be like going over to the grocery store and saying it was fun because I was like, hey, instead of me just grabbing the product off the shelf and buying it, can I stock it first? It's stupid. These things are stupid, and I don't get how they get successful. For God's sakes, can we use our brains before we come up with ideas? So there you have it. That's my rant this week about these things that are stupid. Now, some of you watching may be going like, where do you get the time to overanalyze these things? While you're at work. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, make sure to hit like, hit subscribe, hit that little bell so you get notifications for when I post new videos, and leave a comment. Tell me about some things that you think are really stupid that are prospering. Tell me if you agree with the things that I think are stupid. Don't tell me how you like to ruin a perfectly good steak. Love you guys.